Happy Monday, folks. Good morning. Hi, Ted.
Hello. We're at it again.
Okay, so I think that this one is going to be very helpful to a lot of people. You know, Ted, again, like I can tell anybody easily what you do because I feel like I know so well what you do because you can articulate it and I know who you serve and how you serve them. How is that beneficial for somebody to create and how did you get to that place?
Well, that's a big question. It took a little bit. And I guess it's good that we're talking about this. Some of this goes back to things that we've talked about in the past. Understanding your why, understanding your value, even the vision stuff that we talked about not so long ago. And so there's this idea that here we go again, you know, Ted and Jade talking about really you understanding you. Like, what are you really trying to do? And so at AWAI, I think there's a lot of talk about niche.
Yeah.
You know, I laugh all the time because I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying niche or niche, but
some days we can be French and say niche, and some days we can be American.
You know, yeah, right. But everybody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. And here's my thought on that. There's two ways to go with this, but this does go back to some of the things that we framed up in the past, like you really understanding what you're trying to achieve and what's going to be fulfilling to you. How are you going to monetize certain things, make the money that you want? We've talked about that stuff, so I'm not going to belabor the points on those things, but they have to be on your hip when really narrowing down and thinking about your niche, right? At least I believe. And so I don't want to confuse people, but I do think there's two ways to go here, okay? I do believe there's a way to narrow your business and pick a niche and build a very successful business around that. For other people, that may not work. And that won't be what's fulfilling. And I think about this PR firm here in Baltimore that I would coach for 3 or 4 years. And for like the last year that I was with them, the president always came to me and said, we're gonna narrow this thing down. We're only gonna serve hospitals. It was one of the things. And we're gonna get into wellness. We're gonna do hospitals and we're gonna do wellness centers. And that's who we're gonna do PR firm. And every time I used to look at him and be like, well, Greg, why? You have such a fulfilling book of business. And by the way, you're not on the street selling. The business is coming to you because of what you're really good at. So why are you going to go? I mean, are you unhappy with? And guess it was rooted in fear. It was rooted that if I'm not doing what every other PR firm is telling me to do, which is grab a niche and go, then it's not going to work. So I want people to really slow down here and consider that there's two paths here. I don't want you to dismiss certain business that one, you would be great at, and two, it could be fulfilling. You would be helping people back to a couple episodes ago, just because you've defined a niche, line in the sand, and I don't do that stuff.
Yes.
Right? I want you to be thoughtful because and here's where I go. I don't want to confuse anybody because I also want you to have the ability to say no too.
Yes, huge.
So you got to tell me how I'm landing because because here's the thing: being in the line of work that I've do for so long, and being next to solopreneurs and small to medium sized business owners, there really is two paths here to take, and it all does really boil down to what do you want? That whole vision stuff that we've talked about, and then you really understanding the value that you present to people.
It's funny what you said about the agency and being referable, because you hear me quote a lot of people on this, but Russ Hannaberry talks about that if you can be clear on what you do and who you serve, and I'm not saying you have to niche down, like it doesn't have to be very specific, but what you do and who you serve, and to everybody around you, you will become referable because they understand it, and that's how you can grow. You don't have to just grow by being specific in a certain like hospital lane, like only right for wellness or health, right? But where I think niching or knowing focus, being focused is important, is being able to communicate clearly what you do and who you do it for, right? Like, and that can be like business owners.
Good distinction.
Yeah, and I think that will help you grow. And then, like you said, I think it'll also help not fall into the trap of I do everything for everyone.
I'm just a writer and just write everything. Yeah.
And can I tell you, Ted, beyond that, some of our writers, if a client comes to them, like I think of like SEO. So SEO, you can be like the copywriting, like the artist side of it, or you can be like the engineer, like our Josh, like the tech side of things. And you have to, as the writer, if the company comes to you with the tech side of things, and you don't want to, like some people enjoy that, be okay with saying no. And then to bring it all the way back to our community session, imagine when you talked about people that are opposite to you, like here's an opportunity, right? To be, connect and create with somebody that might be the technical side and you're the artist side, and come together. And that can be with graphic design, it can be with web creation. And there's so many different things, right? That if you know what you do and you can partner with other people who know what they do, you can create like a whole referral base, a community, a business together, who knows what. But I think that knowing what you do and who you serve and the benefits of what you serve is huge. And I think it can be a big game changer in a business.
What's a good distinction you're making? I think about, say you did websites and you just got really good at making websites appealing. Does it matter what business it is?
Exactly.
It doesn't. And then the other thing that I'll just point out that you said, if somebody came to me and it wasn't in my purview, but I had somebody in my community, going back to a couple of episodes, that wasn't their purview, and I said, hey, Jade, I need to connect you with somebody. And all of a sudden that CEO, that president, that decision maker comes back to me, so grateful that they didn't have to go on this search, that I connected them with an expert. Guess what? They know what I do. When they need what I do, they're calling me 100%. Because I help them. So again, this is that paying it forward. And that, like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, things are reciprocated.
Yeah, agreed. So Ted, what do you think this week? Getting clear on what you focus on and be with clarity on what you do, or do you think what you do, who you serve, what else do you think needs to be clear to be able to communicate what you do?
Yeah, I think it's time to tie some of this stuff together. Our own Pam Foster talks a lot about niche at AWAI. Mm-hmm. There's probably some videos out there floating around it. So I would go back to them, because I think this is the point. But this is the time where you're starting to tie in some of the stuff that we've talked about over the year, the vision, because, hey, now define your niche. We'll go back to some of the things that we had you do before. Does it line up with your vision? Like, will this niche support what you said you wanted?
Okay.
You got to figure that out. Or man, do I have to go build my skill set and I got to incorporate websites? I'm just sticking with websites because I said it, but I got to be able to do it. And so we want you to narrow your focus and understand what you do, but we also don't want you to narrow it so far that you're limiting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Awesome. Well, thank you, Ted, again. And thank you, everybody. I'll remind you, if there's anything you want us to talk about or any questions you have for us, pop them down below in the comment section. And we always are keeping an eye out for those. And thank you to everybody that does comment. We get some great feedback. We get feedback, actually, Ted, from everyone in those. So thank you so much. And thank you again, Ted.
All right. Take care, everybody.